Ukrainians who have escaped war are now having to wait in long lines at our border with Mexico.
This is called the park. We call it the park here in TJ. We got about 400 people that are here.
They're now shuttering the tent city where many of them have been staying.
We are inside a community gym in Tijuana.
24 hours ago, this was empty.
I'm happy that we have a restaurant here.
A little bit of dignity, a little bit of peace.
A little bit better upgrade.
This week on Crossing Cultures, we have the privilege of interviewing our good friend, Andy Zeismer. Andy is one of our good friends. He is the founder of A Jesus Mission, and he also just released a new film called Into Ukraine. This film documents what A Jesus Mission did in response to Russia's war on Ukraine. So we have Andy here. We're excited that you're here, Andy. How you doing today?
I'm so good. Thanks for having me, Kia.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. You were here with us during that time when the Ukrainians were crossing the border, coming into San Diego. We were all working together. And I just want to know what your experience was. How was it for you?
Yeah, that first few days when people started crossing, specifically regarding the experience in San Diego, that first few days when people started crossing, I remember getting a call from Phil. He's like, hey, you live on mission. Get down here. Where are you? And so I was on the next flight down and getting to work alongside the church, not even just San Diego Calvary Chapel, but the global church, to be a part of the response was, I don't know how any of us will live our lives the same after experiencing that, because we saw things, we heard things, we experienced people in such a new way. I think that's my takeaway, is I'll never be able to live out my Christian faith the same way I did for years, because one, the sovereignty of God on full display like it's been, and then two, understanding what it means to be the church in the moment that the world needs the church to step up. That's, I think, been my biggest takeaway from the entire thing. Even whether I was down in Tijuana in the gym or working the late night shift, checking in people as they arrived, those 20-hour days were some of the most impactful days that are on record for me.
Yeah, that's what you're saying. Just reminds me of the name of our first episode, Without Hesitation. And that was just how we decided to highlight how the local church immediately responded to Russia's war on Ukraine. How do you think you guys expressed this theme in your film?
Yeah, so we made this film, Into Ukraine. It's called, the tagline is literally just a story of being the church in a war zone. Because I think that's what we wanted to highlight. It wasn't what our ministry did or what Calvary San Diego did or what any one people group or church did. It is a picture of the church stepping up. I think that first 2 or 3 weeks of people mobilizing, the church was able to mobilize faster than anyone could have imagined. Whether it was people opening up their homes to host or our team getting people on the field. In the first literally week, we had I think 10 people crawling the borders of Romania and Hungary and Poland going, how do we get involved? How do we be the church? But I know simultaneously while we were doing that, our organization, A Jesus Mission, there was other people doing the exact same things, and we all just found a lane and got to work. And I think that's a good picture of being the hands and the feet, really, is we just learned a thing that we could do, that we had the capacity to do. At that time, we didn't have the capacity to do anything. I think the film tells kind of the story of God's provision, one by the church stepping up across the world and helping provide. I guess coming back to your question, though, I kind of got off topic a little there, but the reality is the film is about the church's response, not about what A Jesus Mission or any one person or any one hero did. It's how the church, and specifically the church inside the borders of Ukraine, responded. And because of that, we're seeing literally thousands of people not only have their lives saved, but come to Christ.
Yeah, you're talking about all these little small places, all these churches being an aid agency, right? And that was that's the title of our second episode, is the aid agency, how the local church stepped up and how they were responding to the needs in Ukraine. Mm-hmm. And you kind of touched on that already, but how do you see these in your film as well?
Yeah, so the film, it's about 45 minutes long, and what it does is it tells the story of how the church immediately responded, but then how it kind of expanded and how it became an aid agency. Essentially, we had never been an aid organization. We're a missionary care organization. We focus on sending people to where God's called them to be. Well, for this moment in time, that place happened to be the front lines of the war zone. And so the aid that we began to supply was the really practical stuff. We don't speak Ukrainian. None of our volunteers, which we had over 100 volunteers come and serve with us already inside Ukraine and in Romania serving refugees. That becoming an agency of aid as the church is really us just leaning into what God's called us to be already. And so in the film you see that because you see normal people, not superstars, not people with the qualifications that the world would expect, but just random nobodies stepping up and meeting needs. That's what it means for the church to become an aid agency. That's how we declare the gospel to the world, is by showing the gospel to be true in unity. When the church is unified, we exemplify to people that we actually believe the things we say we believe. And so that's how we became an aid organization overnight. And to this moment, Kia, just a Jesus Mission with our tiny little group of vans, which you can hear the story of that in the film, we've delivered over 500,000 pounds of food to within 5 kilometers of Russian occupation. Like, we go to right to where the villages that are being, liberated, we're going right to those villages and meeting them with food in the first hours and days of them having their liberation. And so that again is just a picture of us being the church and responding and becoming an aid organization just by demand, by the situation demanding it, and us knowing that through that context we can share the hope of the gospel.
And that's what I loved about the film. I love that it was average, everyday people who were just passionate about the people around them. And I loved it. And I'm so glad. Thank you for that raw footage and putting that film together, and being able to serve with you on the front here was amazing too. So thank you so much, Andy, for all you do.
It's an honor to serve Jesus alongside you guys.
So can you tell the people where they can find this film, Into Ukraine?
Yeah, the easiest place is just go to ajesusmission.org, or you can find links to it right there. It's a 45-minute film about how the church inside Ukraine and outside responded. And so, ajesusmission.org. You can also find it on YouTube, but ajesusmission.org is the easiest and quickest place.
Thank you, Andy, for being on the show. And thank you, listeners, for listening to this episode of Crossing Cultures. Before we end today's episode, here is a quick look at Andy's new film, Into Ukraine.
That song that says, "Where were you when they crucified my Lord?" And the question the Ukrainian people are asking is, where were you when they crucified us? And that's how we feel right now. As lives, tens of thousands of lives are being snuffed out. The beauty of the gospel is a gospel that is like God himself. He's the suffering God. He enters into his world to suffer with the people. And just like Jesus was crucified on a cross, he did that willingly. And the children of God, as we see in the scriptures, there is a suffering theology of suffering, where the fragrance of Christ is made beautiful as lives are being destroyed.
Into Ukraine, a story of being the church in a war zone.
It was amazing, I don't know if I told you guys this, but the experience of the day one going in and then the last day leaving.
Russian forces are 20 miles from Kiev.
We were getting news of friends of ours that were stuck. They hadn't been able to get out.
In the whole pandemonium of it, the model was there, that the churches become this life center.
See, above hell, below the heavens, I'm feeling blue with every passing second.